It happened last winter. I had just moved into a new apartment, a small but cozy place downtown. The layout was simple: a kitchen, a tiny bedroom, and a living room with a large wall-mounted TV. The TV was so reflective, I often caught glimpses of myself whenever it was turned off. I didn't think much of it, until one night I saw something I couldn't explain. I had been watching a movie, curled up on my couch with the lights dimmed. At some point, I reached for my phone and glanced at the TV screen. My reflection was there, as expected, except it wasn't quite right. At first, I couldn't tell what was off, but as I stared, a cold weight settled in my chest. My reflection was moving slower than me. I turned my head to the left. It followed, just a second too late. I blinked. It didn't. A chill crawled down my spine. It was lagging behind, watching me. I jumped up, heart pounding, and turned the TV off completely. The room went dark, and for a moment, everything felt normal again. Just my reflection, frozen in the black screen. Until it smiled. I wasn't smiling. I backed away so fast I knocked over my coffee table. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone, scrambling to turn on every light in the apartment. When I looked back at the TV, the reflection was normal, exactly as it should be. But I knew what I had seen. I tried to sleep that night, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that grin, stretched just a little too wide. Over the next few days, I tried to convince myself it had been a trick of the light, or maybe my imagination running wild. Then, I started noticing other things. My bathroom mirror was always fogged up even when I hadn't used the shower. Doors that I knew I had closed were slightly open in the morning, and my TV, sometimes, it would turn on by itself. One night I was brushing my teeth when I saw it again, this time in the bathroom mirror. I was washing my face, bent over the sink. When I looked up, my reflection was staring at me. I hadn't lifted my head yet. I screamed, spinning around so fast I nearly slipped. But there was nothing there. Just me. Just my own panicked face staring back. I didn't sleep at all that night. The last straw came 2 nights later. I was on the phone with a friend, pacing around my apartment, trying to distract myself. Then I heard it. A small tapping sound. I stopped mid-sentence, my body locking up. It wasn't coming from my door or my window. It was coming from the TV. The screen was off, but something inside it was tapping. I held my breath, stepping closer, my fingers ice cold around my phone. The screen was so dark, so still. Then, all at once, the power cut out. Everything went black. In the sudden silence, I swear I heard breathing, not mine. When the lights flickered back on, I grabbed my keys and ran. I moved out the next week. I don't know what it was. A glitch in reality? A ghost? A warning? All I know is, I don't keep mirrors or TVs in my apartment anymore, because sometimes, when I pass by reflective surfaces in store windows, I still see something staring back at me. And sometimes, it moves when I don't. I wasn't even looking for trouble, just trying to sell an old couch. It had been sitting in my apartment for years, but after redecorating, I figured it was time to let it go. I took some pictures, wrote up a quick listing, and posted it on Craigslist. Within an hour, I got a response. The buyer's name was Daniel. He was polite, asked if the couch was still available, and offered to come pick it up that evening, cash in hand. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. He arrived just after sunset. A tall man, maybe mid-40s, with a friendly but stiff smile. He wore a gray hoodie and faded jeans, the kind of outfit that's so nondescript it's forgettable. We made small talk as he looked over the couch. He ran his hand along the armrest, pressed his fingers into the cushions, nodded like he was testing the quality. Then he smiled. Not a polite smile. Not a friendly one. Something about it lingered too long. I ignored the unease crawling up my spine. I just wanted to get this over with. "Looks great," he finally said, pulling out a wad of cash. "I'll take it." I helped him carry it to his truck. The whole time, I could feel him watching me, not in a normal, casual way, in a memorizing way, like he was studying me. I brushed it off. Overactive imagination. I was alone, it was late, and I just wanted this transaction to be over. He shook my hand before leaving. His grip was too tight, too firm. "Thanks for letting me inside," he said. I didn't think much of it at the time, but later those words would haunt me. The next morning, I went about my routine as usual. Coffee, emails, scrolling through my phone, completely forgetting about Daniel. Until I heard something slip under my door. A soft, almost deliberate sound. I froze. Slowly, I walked to the door and looked down. A piece of paper lay on the floor, folded in half. No name, no return address, just 3 words, scrawled in shaky handwriting. "I'll be back." My stomach dropped. I yanked open the door, expecting to see someone standing there. But the hallway was empty. I ran down to the lobby, checked the front entrance, even looked outside. No one. Was it a prank? A coincidence? I tried to rationalize it, but something deep inside me knew better. That night, I triple-checked the locks before bed. I told myself I was being paranoid, that it was just a note, that Daniel was gone. Then, at 3:12 a.m., I woke up. Something wasn't right. I held my breath, listening. The room was silent. Then I saw it. My bedroom door. It was open, just slightly. I always closed my door before bed. Always. My skin prickled. Slowly, I reached for my phone, barely breathing as I turned on the flashlight. I aimed it at the door, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I saw nothing. No one. But then my eyes drifted lower, to the footprints, wet, muddy, leading from my front door to my bedroom. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys, ran out of my apartment, and called the police from my car. When they arrived, they found my front door still locked. No signs of forced entry. But in my living room, on the floor where the couch used to be, they found a small folded piece of paper, with the same handwriting as before. I was here. I moved out the next week. The police never found anything. No fingerprints, no surveillance footage. It was like he was never there. But I know the truth. Daniel wasn't just looking for a couch. He was looking for a way in. I always thought the noises were just the building settling. It was an old apartment, the kind that creaked when the wind blew too hard, the kind that made you feel like you were never really alone. At night, when everything was quiet, I'd hear it. The occasional soft thud coming from above. A faint, almost rhythmic shuffling, like something moving. I lived on the top floor. There shouldn't have been anyone above me. But I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe rats in the attic, pipes shifting, or just my imagination. I should have listened to my gut. A few weeks later, I started noticing little things. Food missing from my fridge. Not whole meals, just small things. A slice of bread, a few pieces of fruit. A half-drunk bottle of juice I was sure I hadn't touched. I doubted myself at first. Maybe I ate it and forgot. Maybe I was distracted while cooking. Then my cabinet started staying open in the morning. Cereal boxes moved, silverware out of place. I lived alone. I told myself it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been in my apartment while I was asleep. And then I found the vent. One night, as I was watching TV, I noticed something strange. The vent cover near the ceiling in the hallway was slightly askew. Just a little, barely noticeable. I stared at it for a while, trying to remember if it had always been like that. Then, I saw it move. A tiny, almost imperceptible shift, like someone was adjusting their position. My heart pounded. My throat went dry. I tried to convince myself it was the wind, or maybe my eyes playing tricks on me. I grabbed a chair, stood up, and reached toward the vent, hesitating. Then just as I was about to touch it, I heard breathing, right above me, shallow, slow, not mine. I scrambled backward, almost falling off the chair. My mind raced. Number no, no, no. That wasn't real. But I couldn't pretend anymore. Someone was up there. I ran out of my apartment and called the police. When they arrived, I practically dragged them inside, pointing at the vent, my voice shaking. "There's someone up there. I know how it sounds, but please, just check." They exchanged a look, but one of the officers sighed and said, "We'll take a look." They pulled out a ladder, pushed open the vent cover, and shined a flashlight inside. Then I saw it, the change in the officer's face. His eyes widened, his posture tensed. "We've got something." The second officer climbed up into the attic. There was a long silence. Then, in a hushed voice, he muttered, "Jesus Christ." They told me to leave the apartment immediately. Inside the attic, they found a nest, blankets, empty food wrappers, a sleeping bag, and worse, a notepad filled with scribbled notes. About me. What time I left for work, when I came home, when I showered, when I slept. He had been watching me, living above me, for months. They never caught him. By the time the police searched the rest of the building, he was gone. I moved out that same week. To this day, I can't sleep in a room with an air vent overhead, because sometimes, late at night, I still imagine it, a face, just behind the grates, watching, waiting. It started a few weeks ago. At exactly 2:37 a.m., my phone would ring. Every night. Always the same unknown number. The first few times I ignored it, assuming it was some kind of spam or robocall, but it kept happening. Same time, same silence. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I answered. I pressed the phone to my ear, expecting a robotic voice or an automated message. Instead, I was met with silence. Not the kind of silence you hear when a call drops. The kind of silence where you know someone is there, listening. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. Just breathing. Slow. Steady. Deep. A chill ran down my spine. I hung up and blocked the number, but the next night it rang again. At this point, I was rattled. I unblocked the number just to answer and scream into the phone. I cursed them out, demanded to know who they were, begged them to stop. They never spoke, just breathed. Some nights, the breathing would be slow and deliberate. Other nights, it would be ragged and quick, like whoever was on the other end was excited. That was the worst part. The waiting. The tension. Then one night, I noticed something even more disturbing. I had picked up out of frustration and heard that same horrible breathing, but this time there was another sound in the background. Something faint. Something familiar. I turned my head, my stomach twisting. The sound wasn't coming from my phone. It was coming from inside my apartment. I called the police. I told them everything. The calls, the breathing, the sound in my apartment. They took it seriously, sending an officer within minutes. When he arrived, I handed him my phone, showed him my call log. The same number, the same time, every night. He stepped aside to call it back. My heart pounded as I watched his expression shift from suspicion to something else. His radio crackled. Another officer's voice came through. Then, he looked at me and said something that made my entire body go cold. "The calls are coming from inside your house." My breath caught. My vision blurred. I saw him pull out his gun before my brain could even process what he'd just said. "Stay here," he ordered. Then he moved toward the hallway. I stood frozen as he slowly pushed open my bedroom door. And that's when I heard it, the creak of a closet door. Then, footsteps. There was a scuffle, a crash, a yell. The officer tackled a man, a filthy, wild-looking man, right in the middle of my bedroom. He was screaming, clawing at the ground like a trapped animal. His face was sunken, his clothes tattered, like he hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. Another officer burst in, and together they restrained him. I could only stare, my whole body numb. I kept shaking my head. How? How was he calling me? Then I saw it, my spare phone. The old, disconnected one I kept in a drawer, the one I never used. It was lying in the open, and its call log was identical to mine. He had been living inside my walls, inside my crawl space, watching me, listening to me, calling me. They later told me he had tunnels, a hidden space inside the walls running alongside my bedroom. He had drilled tiny holes into the vents, just big enough to see through. That's how he knew when I was sleeping, when I was awake, when I was home. That's how he knew the perfect time to call. They took him away that night. I never learned his name, never found out how long he had been there. And I didn't want to. I moved out within a week. Found a new place in a building with no crawl spaces, no attic, no way for someone to live inside my walls. And for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The calls finally stopped. But to this day, I can't hear a phone ring at night without my stomach twisting. And sometimes, when I wake up in the early hours of the morning, I still find myself waiting for it to ring. It started with a photo I don't remember taking. I was scrolling through my phone one night, mindlessly flipping through my gallery, when I saw it. A picture of me sitting at my desk. It was recent, maybe taken that day, but something felt off. I stared at it for a while, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I had set my phone down and accidentally hit the camera. Maybe I took it and forgot. But the angle was weird, as if someone else had taken it, standing just behind me. A chill ran through me, but I convinced myself it was nothing. A weird accident. A glitch. I had to have taken it. Right? I moved on. But a few days later, I found another one. This time I was asleep. The picture was grainy, taken in the dark, but there was no mistaking it. It was me, curled up in my sheets, my phone on the nightstand beside me. Someone had taken it. Someone had been in my room. My stomach twisted. I jumped up, flipped on the lights, and checked the locks, the windows, the closet. Everything was locked. Everything was normal. But I didn't sleep that night. I just sat awake, clutching my phone, staring at my bedroom door. I told myself it was a hack. Someone had somehow accessed my phone remotely and was messing with me. I changed all my passwords, locked everything down. But then the next picture came. This time, I wasn't alone in the frame. I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, staring at the mirror, my reflection captured in the shot. But behind me, just barely visible in the doorway, was a figure. A man, standing completely still, watching me. I felt dizzy. The world around me blurred. I checked the timestamp. It was from the previous night. He had been inside my apartment while I was awake, while I was standing right there. I ran to my front door, checked the locks again, then tore through my apartment, throwing open every door, every cabinet, every closet. There was no one there, but I knew I wasn't alone. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat on my couch, clutching a kitchen knife in one hand, my phone in the other, waiting, watching. At exactly 3:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. My breath caught in my throat as I pulled up the security camera feed from my bedroom. At first, the screen showed nothing but darkness. My blanket rising and falling as I breathed in my sleep. No movement, no sounds. Then, my closet door opened. Just a crack. Not fast, not loud, slow, deliberate. I sat frozen, gripping my phone so hard my fingers ached. Then, something moved. A hand. Pale fingers, sliding around the edge of the door, pushing it open wider. I threw my phone across the room, scrambled to my feet, and ran out of my apartment barefoot, barely remembering to grab my keys. I didn't stop running until I was outside, standing under the cold streetlights, gasping for air. The police arrived within minutes. They went inside, weapons drawn, searching every corner of my apartment. They found nothing, no forced entry, no signs of anyone living there. But when they checked the footage, there was one final image, a still shot, taken just before I ran, a man standing in my closet. His face was blurry, out of focus, but his eyes were locked on me. And worst of all, he was smiling. I packed my things that night and left. I never went back. I broke my lease, threw out my phone, and moved across the city. Weeks later, I got a call from the police. They had been investigating a series of break-ins in my old building. People had reported missing food, strange noises, things moving on their own. But it was what they found that made my blood turn to ice. Behind the drywall in the back of my closet, they had discovered a small, hidden space. Inside, they found a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, and dozens of photographs. All of me, taken from inside my apartment. I don't know how long he had been there. I don't know if he followed me after I moved. But I do know one thing. Every now and then, I still check my phone. And sometimes, I find pictures I don't remember taking.